Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, The Evolution of Conscious Beauty, Trends Shaping the Future of Wellness. Thank you all for joining us today. We do have a chat box, so if you want to let us know where you're tuning in from, we always love to see that. And please feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen as well if you have questions over the course of our webinar, and we will get to those too. Before we jump in, I want to introduce my co-presenters today, Meredith Kaufman, Associate Editor at New Hope Network, and Yvonne Chan, Food, Grocery, and Nutrition Data Analyst at Spins. And as you will quickly learn, they are also both experts in the clean beauty category as well. Now, today we're going to talk about the opportunity in this space, but before we do, I want to contextualize it a little bit by sharing some of the ways that we'll be elevating the clean beauty and wellness space at Newtopia Now. So for those who don't know about Newtopia Now, or if you do and just want a little refresher, it is our event that's happening in Denver, August 20th through the 22nd at the Colorado Convention Center. And it really has become the destination for product innovation. And we do that through highlighting amazing companies and brands, as well as offering unique experiences that connect CPG companies with buyers, investors, and other experts within the industry to drive growth. Now, what does that mean for the beauty space? I'm really excited to share some of the things we have going on in our Glow neighborhood. The Newtopia Now show floor is divided based on neighborhoods, and these neighborhoods are defined by key themes that we believe are driving growth and opportunity in the CPG industry. One of those is related to conscious beauty, wellness, and women's health, which are all topics that will manifest in Glow. As you can see here, we had the amazing Carla Hall there last year. We had so much great content, and I'll share a couple of the other things that you can expect to see in Glow. So certainly tons of product innovations across categories, including personal care, clean beauty, wellness, nutracosmetics, and women's health. We'll have a Glow stage, so that means that all of that content around the category and how to make the most of it will be right there central to where the booths are and where your discovery experience is happening. We'll be featuring Target, Spins, Wellness Growth Ventures, Bain and Company, and more in there. We also have a salon, so you can see how these products are actually used and see how they're applied, and you can get a headshot. The headshot activation was a great feature last year. We'll have that again. And we have a Glow Lounge where people within the community can gather and talk about these key issues. Finally, we have the Conscious Beauty and Wellness Pitch event presented by Giannuzzi Lewendin. You can see our winners there last year, Daybird, and we had 10 great companies, emerging companies in beauty and wellness pitching their products and ideas, and you can expect to see that again this year. I also want to highlight our keynote for the year, which is Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. She'll be in the Glow neighborhood. She is incredible. She'll be talking about redefining strength and mastering multi-dimensional wellness. Now, why I am most looking forward to this is because it really represents the evolving category of beauty and wellness and a different way of thinking about strength. Dr. Gabrielle Lyon is known for some of her research around protein and muscle-centric medicine. But I just got off the phone with her yesterday, and she talked about how we should be thinking about strength in lots of different ways, including resilience. And I love that message of resiliency and what it means for founders across the natural products industry. So very much looking forward to hearing from Dr. Lyon. So that's what we have going on at Newtopia Now for this category. So now let's dive into why this category matters and what some of the opportunities look like. So I want to start by providing an overall snapshot of what's happening in the CPG industry. Natural and organic industry grew 5.7% in 2024, up from 4.9% in 2023. That actually exceeded our expectations of what we were thinking we would see around growth. So growth in the industry is healthy overall. Total industry sales reached $325 billion. So this industry is absolutely a force. And in that pie chart there, you can see the makeup of the industry. It is primarily food and beverage, followed by supplements, and then natural and organic personal care. But what you'll see, which I think is really important for this conversation, is that natural and organic personal care actually exceeded growth of the industry overall. So on this next slide, you can see that the personal care industry saw 6.7% growth in 2024, and it reached $21 billion in sales. And once again, is the fastest growing category in the natural products industry. I also want to show a breakdown of what holds the greatest market share. So you'll certainly see a lot of skincare because that is 33.7% of natural and organic personal care. We see a lot of innovation, continued innovation here, and we'll talk about some of those innovation areas. But the categories that are showing the most growth are deodorants, oral hygiene, and feminine hygiene. And I think that's fascinating because over the past 5 years, we've seen great developments in the efficacy of these products. And as a result, more and more consumers are purchasing them, and retailers are giving them better shelf space and hyping them up. Now, where are most of the sales happening? So, most sales are happening at this point in mass market. Now, natural and organic personal care sales in mass market, that's 28.6% of total sales. Natural and specialty retail is actually losing a bit of share. And I think this is because mass and direct channels continue to grow as this space becomes more mainstream. Now, I think the takeaway here is just understanding that multi-channel is really driving this category and that there's a lot happening across natural and mass, but it's important for retailers wherever you sit to understand that there's just a lot more competition out there, and product differentiation and education and assortment is going to be so important if you want to win over consumers. Now, I want to hand it over to Meredith to talk about some of the key trends that we're seeing in conscious beauty and wellness. And as you'll see as she discusses, we aren't just going to talk about topical products, but you'll see a lot of topical products here. But we really want to emphasize that natural, holistic beauty and wellness continues to evolve. And you'll see it in the aisles of mass market retailers, of specialty retailers, and natural products retailers, that they're blurring the lines between beauty and wellness, and that this category is much more dynamic than ever before. So, Meredith, I will hand it over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jessica. So as Jessica just said, my name is Meredith Kaufman. I'm an associate editor at New Hope Network, and I have a lot of different things to go through and not a ton of time. So I might be going through this a little bit quickly. If you have any questions, please feel free just to put them in the chat and we will go through those at the end. I have 5 trends that I'm going to be talking about today. So the first trend is beyond clean. There is a lot of scrutiny right now going on the ingredients in our personal care products. But it's not just clean ingredients that consumers want. They also want it at an accessible price point, and they want products that are going to do multiple things for them at the same time. So I have a number of companies exhibiting at Newtopia that I think embody this really well. I'm super excited about. And this can look like a lot of different things for different consumers. So on one end of the spectrum, there's brands like My Neighbor's Tallow and Moo Elixir, and they are actually crafting skincare made from grass-fed and grass-finished beef tallow. That's a trend that started on TikTok. It's proliferated like crazy, but it's all about clean ingredients. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there are companies such as Zizia. This is a brand that was founded by an herbalist. It is 100% plant-based. All of the formulations are made with natural botanical ingredients. And then on the makeup front, there's companies like Pixie. They are making products like this On the Glow. It is both a foundation, but also a non-comedogenic moisturizer. It comes in a stick that can just easily be thrown in a bag, and it's only $20. So that's the first trend. The second trend is beauty as a wellness ritual. And as I like to say, it's 2025 and everything is always a vibe. It's always a routine. It's always a ritual. This can look like a lot of different things. Two companies exhibiting at Newtopia that I think exhibit this super well. The first is actually a supplement company. Well, they both are. But one is called Black Lotus, and they are making something as basic as soap into a ritual luxury experience. So, this Shilajit soap is made again with grass fed beef tallow, but it's also infused with mineral shilajit, which is known for being really potent for circulation. And then another company that I'm pretty excited about is a supplement company. It's called LA Chocolates, and they are making probiotics in the form of organic sugar-free chocolate. So it's really beauty from the inside out, but in a format that kind of makes it feel like very luxurious to, take care of yourself. Okay, the third trend. These are products that are really focused on hormone sensitivity, sexual wellness, and healthy aging. There is a lot of scrutiny going on right now around the ingredients in feminine hygiene products. Women increasingly are becoming very skeptical of feminine hygiene products that are made from petrochemicals and contain plastics. There are really amazing brands out there, such as Sparkle. They are making a range of different feminine hygiene products, all from USDA certified bio based ingredients. There's no petroleum based ingredients, there's no synthetic plastics, there's no fragrances. And then on the other end of the spectrum, oh, back one. Thank you. There are companies such as Cottage. This is actually a supplement company, but I think it's really interesting that they have broken into skincare as well. And they're formulating a number of skincare products that are really focused around healthy aging. So, for example, this NAD plus face cream has resveratrol, collagen, and then vitamins C and E. So, really ingredients that are very potent when taken both topically and ingested in the form of a supplement. Thank you. Okay. Now, this is probably the trend that I am most excited about to see at Newtopia, and I call this one skincare for all skin colors. There are a number of companies founded by individuals who really didn't see themselves represented in the personal care aisle. One company, it's called the Bump Serum. It was founded by an individual, Charles Johnson. So essentially, most shaving care products on the market were really designed for people with white, uh, basically like hair follicles that are straight. And men of color tend to have hair follicles that are both coarser and curlier. As a result, they suffer from razor bumps, and there aren't very many products on the market that were designed for them. So Charles Johnson basically took matters into his own hands. He designed a three-part shaving kit that was really made for men of color to help target their razor bumps. And another company that I'm very excited about is called Patsy Girl. This was founded by a woman who decided that it was time for her to embrace her natural, curly, and kinky hair. As she started to do more research about the existing products on the market that were marketed towards Black women, she learned that most of them were actually very synthetic and contained toxic ingredients. So she created her own skincare and hair care company marketed towards the needs of Black women's hair and skin, and it's all completely natural ingredients. Okay, and then this is the last one, waterless and plastic free. We talk a lot about what sustainability looks like in the food industry. And I would say that we're kind of at the precipice of people starting to talk a lot more about sustainability in the personal care aisle. This can also look like a couple different things. So, one brand, the Unscented Company, this product, the lotion bar, was actually the Nexty Award winner this year for the Planet Forward. So, it's waterless, which means it has significantly less waste. It comes in a paper tube and it's just really easy to throw in your bag on the go. And another company that I'm excited about is called Sunny Made. They are making a range of personal care products from shampoo bars to soaps to moisturizers and lip balm, and everything comes in a home compostable paper package. So there's zero plastic waste. And another thing that's really great about sustainable personal care products, it's so easy just to throw them in a bag and be on the go. So that was a lot of stuff, but I'm going to pass it off to Yvonne now, and she's going to talk a little bit more about what's going on in the segment.
All right, thanks, Meredith. Um, so you heard a lot about the trends from Meredith there, and today I'll be talking a little bit about state of natural beauty. Yes, that's me. And I've been working at Spins, being a part of the team that creates a lot of these presentations, talking about trends in the industry, and just a little bit here so that we understand where the data is coming from. We work with brands and also retailers. And so we'll be having like a holistic view on that beauty department as a whole here. Next slide, please. So starting with how beauty has been performing over the past 3 years here with a 2-year look, we'll you can see that beauty as a whole has grown 4% from 2 years ago to a year ago, and then 2% from a year ago to current. And so we're seeing like a slight deceleration there, but that doesn't mean that um, that's all bad news. And we can look at just the categories that are driving that growth there in the next slide. And so I've highlighted here the ones in green that are growing at par or higher than the total industry in general. And you can see that's hair care, soap and bath preparations, deodorants and antiperspirants, skincare, as was touched on earlier, and as well as body fragrances and perfumes. And a few product types that we've seen growing under these categories are things like body wash, body lotion, acne treatment, and also a lot of lip products like lip balm, lip gloss, and also lip liners. So, and one thing to call out as well is that deodorants and antiperspirants, as well as body fragrances and perfumes, are growing as we go into summer. Obviously, a lot of consumers are looking for products like that as they deal with the hot, sweaty weather. But in the next slide, we can also think about these products not only as categories and product types, but we can think about it in terms of positioning. And so here we have, three categories you can think of. So conventional, specialty, and natural. Conventional is going to be the legacy brands that a lot of you are familiar with. And then specialty is a lot of brands that are more focused on functionality and like active ingredients. And then natural are brands that are mission aligned or have a lot of botanicals in them. And so that's how I want to think about the beauty industry as we move on to the next slide here. And as you can see, when we look at dollar share, the blue represents conventional, so still a very large percentage of the beauty department there. And then specialty over the past 3 years have stayed pretty much the same size at 7%. But what's been growing is natural beauty, gaining a percent of dollar share from conventional year after year. And if you see, it's only 10% of dollar share, but actually contributing 57% of growth. So really over contributing there. And I think it's a testament to how consumers are finding these products and resonating with them and spending their money with brands that align to their mission. And so how is natural beauty capturing this consumer segment? I think they're addressing mentality shifts in the industry. And so there are three that I want to talk about today. That's preferences with staying power, the art and science of being ready, as well as how they're positioning themselves as being a part of media at the moment. So in preferences with staying power, I think there's been a large move to back to basics. So we're seeing 142% growth rate in terms of moisturizers that contain shea butter. And that's a ingredient that's been around for a very, very long time, but obviously well loved for its hydrating component there. And so I think a lot of consumers are returning to things that are familiar with them. And we also see that there's a 61% increase in dollar sales of scalp treatments with rosemary oil. Um, hair loss and also hair or stimulating hair growth is a big concern for a lot of people, no matter the gender. And I think before they turn to sort of pharmaceuticals or drugs that can help, a lot of consumers really try um, a natural sort of alternative. And so rosemary oil is one of those, and that's what we're seeing there. And we've also seen a 7% growth of oral care that contains xylitol. And xylitol can help prevent um, cavities. But I think it's also important to note that there is a growing consumer segment that are not very fond of fluoride. And so we also see some of those consumers moving to products that contain only xylitol. But I think xylitol in general has um, been included in a lot of different oral care products alongside fluoride as well. And then the one last thing I wanted to talk about was beauty from within there, as Meredith touched upon as well. Supplements are a big part of the space. And one that's like really interesting that's growing in the natural segment and has and is slowly moving towards like conventional as well as sea moss. So that helps with hydration and also I think it also has a part in vegan collagen. So consumers really looking to ingredients like that to help with skincare and health, hair care, and more in general. Moving on to the next one. So talking about the art and science of being ready, I wanted this section to more or less highlight what consumer preferences are changing and so how brands are trying to step up in that regard. I think over the past few years, it's no doubt that global skincare brands have been rising, brands from Korea and France, and also those in Australia, especially when it comes to sun care. Um, for Korean beauty in general, I think the rise has been really, really interesting, obviously accelerated by things like TikTok, but I have a little screen grab there of the Asian beauty subreddit. Reddit is a social media forum platform, but you can see that it has 3.5 million um, members, and Reddit still is primarily has a very heavy American user base. And so you can see that the interest in Asian beauty is really growing. And I think they are pretty innovative, even with their flavors. You see Laneige there with their matcha and ube flavored lip cream. And then one thing that has really driven K beauty as well is their sunscreens. And of course, Australia and also Europe plays a huge, huge role in sun care. As some of you may be aware, sun care is quite behind in the US in terms because they're limited by legislation and the filters that are allowed in those products. So consumers are turning to online platforms to buy products that aren't available in the US because of these legislations, because they contain filters that allow these products to be more, I think the word is elegant when applied to your face, like no white cast and things like that. So consumers are really looking to elsewhere to find sun care that helps. But that's not to say that sun care doesn't do well with homegrown brands as well. I think a very good example is a brand like Goop that does really well. But interestingly, I think Beauty of Joseon there with their dairy relief sunscreen, I think they have ingredients like probiotics and rice in their sunscreen, and they have to reformulate that when they want to sell the same product in the US. So I think it's about striking that balance and seeing what the government will do in terms of sunscreen legislation there. And then moving on to some other things that are, sorry, on the previous slide, still resonating with consumers. Sustainability as a whole tends to take a hit when economic trends are pretty tough. So we see consumers exercising their interest in sustainability in different ways, as well as their interest in natural products. So we can see that 7% of there's natural beauty products that are labeled paraben free have seen a 7% growth But more than that, I think very interestingly, the growth rate of shampoo bars are at 33%. And Meredith highlighted a few brands that fall into that as well. And so consumers exercising their interest in sustainability in those kinds of ways. And also, interestingly, I think naturally positioned deodorants and antiperspirants are growing at 18%. So consumers really looking for products that are um, fewer synthetics there. Next slide, please. And the last thing I wanted to talk about here was media of the moment. I think it's no surprise that uh, TikTok has played a huge, huge role in the growth of the beauty department. And I'd be remiss to talk about the Gen Alpha skinfluencers that a lot of people know about, the Sephora kids. I think there was this really interesting report by Alta where they surveyed generations and talked about the age they started experimenting with beauty products. For Gen Z, that was 13 years old. And for Gen Alpha, that's 8 years old. And that's like a huge 5 year gap there for when they start with their beauty products. And I think that um, Gen Alpha gets a lot of hate, but some of us forget what it's like to be children. And I think that many of us participated in beauty when we were that young as well. I hope these makeup palettes and lip smackers are familiar to some of you. And I think one thing to think about is that drawing back to our experience in the food industry as well, parents are very willing to buy products that are much, much better when it's for their children. Think about a lot of parents who buy organic products for the kids, but not for themselves. And so I think that's a huge um, gap here, a white space for brands to fill in where they can be fun, interesting products that are also better for you and positioned for children. I think a brand like Bubble has done that really well. They removed a lot of the actives that children have, like no child needs retinol in their skincare. And so just making sure that the kids have a space to play as well in this beauty department is something that I see as a white space. And I think the rise of less is more is coming soon. I think the past few years we saw a lot of 12-step routines, but I think that a lot of consumers are moving more towards minimalism. So finding out what works for them. And you can see that reflected in a lot of the TikTok videos where they're paring down a lot of their routines. And the last trend I wanted to talk about was like Y2K. And I guess slightly a little to less is more. We've seen a lot of celebrities get rid of their fillers as well. Uh, but Botox is still going pretty strong. But I think that maximalist look is kind of going out and it's more of that clean girl aesthetic, glass skin. And the one last thing is that Y2K trend that we've been seeing in fashion start bleeding into beauty as well. That glossy look that was so popular in the 2000s have given rise to products like lip oil, but it's very different. The lip oil nowadays is sort of like a thinner gloss. But that's all I have today. And I still think that natural will be the driving future of the beauty industry. And I'll be passing that time back to Jessica.
Thank you so much, Siobhan, and I could not agree more. Thank you for that great presentation. I loved seeing all of the trends that you identified. Meredith, thank you for highlighting some of the trends that we've been tracking. And I want to make sure that we have a couple minutes for questions. I don't see any in the chat, so if you do have questions, please throw them in there. I'll wait just a few seconds to see if anyone does. And in the meantime, here's some contact information for the New Hope team that you can reach out to if you have any questions about what we presented today or about Newtopia Now. Please do reach out directly. And thank you once again for joining us today. What a great webinar. And we can't wait to see all of this come to life at Newtopia. And we did get one question in the chat. That is, what are the trends for mushroom products? And I have a couple thoughts on that, but Yvonne, I would love for you to share, and if that's something that Spins tracks, or if you want to reach out to this person afterwards with some additional information. Do you have anything on mushrooms in beauty and wellness in particular?
We see a strong growth of mushrooms in supplements in particular. I think that's kind of where the strong players are at the moment. We do see it sort of bleed into beauty in different types of formulations, but I think right now the a general amount of the sales still comes from the supplements industry.
Yeah, thanks, Yvonne. And same, we're seeing a lot of growth in supplements around mushrooms. We actually have a whole mushroom report from Nutrition Business Journal that talks all about some of this growth and innovation and opportunity. We are also seeing some in beauty products and topicals because of the antioxidant benefits. So I'm seeing a little bit more of that. And some of the things that I think are particularly interesting in the mushroom space are the powders, the beverages. We highlighted a great company. It'll be in our upcoming issue of Natural Foods Merchandiser that's blending mushrooms and matcha. So really looking at some of these beauty rituals and incorporating mushrooms into those products. And we actually had a cool quote in Newsweek about some of the things that we're seeing around mushrooms and Gen Z consumers in particular really enjoying these mushroom beverages as a replacement for alcohol because we're seeing more mushrooms in functional beverages to offer not just those functional benefits, but also some experiential things around energy or relaxation. So I think that there's some cool stuff happening there, both in beauty and beyond. And yes, I also forgot to mention, but want to, that this will be available on demand. So if you want to take a peek or share it with any colleagues, it'll be on demand as well as on YouTube. Oh, and there's a question, what about men as a category? Yvonne, are you seeing interesting things happening in men's personal care?
I think uh men have come a very long way in terms of skincare. I think over the past few years, I had friends who told me things like I just wash my face with uh not dish hand soap. But nowadays there some of them are even better than others in terms of like what actives are trending and stuff like that. And so we've seen a lot of men enter that category there. And so we've seen that reflected in the sales as well.
Yeah, who knows? Some men may even use dish soap, like you said, it's possible. Yeah, same. We're seeing more clean men's personal care products. So I think as more and more men have transitioned over into getting more kind of specialty personal care, also realizing how important clean ingredients are. Meredith, you highlighted one of the companies that I think represents the shift, not just towards more inclusive products for genders, but also more inclusive across the board. So have you seen other cool things happening for men or other key demographics?
Yeah, I'm thinking of two things right now. As you alluded to, I mentioned the bump serum, which is specifically for men of color and their shaving needs. And I'm thinking of another company, I believe it's called Volt. They're also going to be at Newtopia, and this is all hair care products that are mostly formulated for men, and it's supposed to be more natural ingredients. But what's interesting is that a couple months ago, I had actually interviewed the founder of the Bump Serum, the shaving company, and I was talking with him a little bit about like how do you market skincare products to men because it's very different than marketing them to women. Obviously, how do you get this to be something that like men actually want to be talking about and engaging with? And I thought he had a really interesting answer because he said, "Oh, I mean, I don't market them directly towards men. I market them towards mothers, sisters, girlfriends, and
Hmm.
spouses." And that resonated a lot with me because generally, when I think about my husband, it's I'm the one who is buying him the products that I want him to be using. Not that I think that it has to be that way or that's always the case, but I think that specifically thinking about marketing men's care products might be a little bit different than how you would market a product towards a female consumer.
Yeah, that's a great point, Meredith. And related, I've also seen more gender neutral personal care products. So products that are for everyone. And there's a lot of these just like really clean, simple, kind of straightforward branding that can be for everyone. And I think resonates with people who just want something that's cleaner and simpler, which Yvonne, you talked about quite a bit as well. So yes, definitely some growth and opportunity there. Any other questions before we wrap for the day? All right. Well, thank you once again, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Be sure to check out our other webinars as well. And we will see you all hopefully in Denver in August. Thanks, Meredith and Yvonne. Great presentations today.
Thanks all.